Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. The National Human Rights Commission has issued a notice to the Chhattisgarh government over the alleged rape, sexual and physical assault of 16 tribal women by the state police in 2015. Holding the state government liable for the crimes, the human rights body asked the Chief Secretary to answer why it should not recommend interim monetary relief of 37 lakh rupees to the victims. The relief that it intends to recommend was 3 lakh rupees each to the 8 victims of rape, 2 lakh rupees each to the 6 victims of sexual assault and 50,000 rupees each to 2 victims of physical assault. NHRC had initiated proceedings based on a 2015 news report that stated that women from 5 villages had accused the state police of sexually harassing and assaulting more than 40 of them and gang raping at least 2 in Bijapur district. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the implications of the NHRC indictment of the Chhattisgarh police. Joining me on the program today are Colin, Gonsalves, Senior Supreme Court Advocate, Vikarm Singh, former DGP, Uttar Pradesh Police, Satya, Prakash, Legal Editor, Hindustan Times, and Vivek, Goyal, Advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Gonsalves, I'd like to start with you, of course, and get your first reactions of the NHRC indictment of the Chhattisgarh police.
Well, at least the NHRC has woken up after a year or so, and we are grateful to the NHRC for getting out of its slumber. But these incidents took place in October 2015, 2 rape incidents, and 1 in January 2016. So we are happy that the NHRC has got out of its deep sleep. But tell me, why is it 3 lakhs for a victim of rape and gang rape? What year are we living in? Are we living in 2016 or we are living in some dark ages? Why not 30 lakhs? Why not 1 crore per woman? Tribal woman gets 1 crore when she is raped and gang raped. Why 3 lakhs? Second, why is it always NHRC will only focus on giving some pitiable amounts and will never focus on prosecution of the armed forces personnel and the police personnel? IG Kalluri is the main person behind all these human rights violations in Chhattisgarh. He is the IG of this range. He was the person responsible for all these officers. Why is the prosecution of these persons, suspension from service, charge sheeting against these officers? Why does the NHRC never talk about it? They come in late, they'll issue a notice and they say, okay, pay them some pitiable amounts of money. They are tribal women. They don't know how to get anything more. So then get rid of the issue like that. It's a shocking case of, sloth, laziness by the NHRC and then pitiable payments in the end result. We are very unhappy with the slow action of the NHRC. We are also very unhappy with this way of treating tribal women as if they are worth 3 lakhs. 3 lakhs. Rape a tribal woman and pay 3 lakhs from the state exchequer also, not from the salaries of these policemen.
Indeed.
And then what about, for example, the police people rob their money, then the police people rob their home items, the police people rob their vessels, the police people rob their food items. What is to happen about all that? Then people were assaulted, people were not only raped, people were assaulted. What happens to that? You'll give them some 50,000 rupees? I think the country should wake up and hold the NHRC responsible. It is a serious institution, it's the premier institution. It should not behave in this casual manner.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Your point taken, Mr. Gonsalves. Vivek, Goyal, NHRC has not done enough. Justice delayed is justice denied is what Mr. Gonsalves is saying. Do you want to respond to that? Do you believe that the NHRC in its ambit, it's bound by law? Judicial and quasi-judicial, organizations or bodies in this country are not ensuring that justice is delivered in a speedy manner. And so is the case with the NHRC.
NHRC has done something at last. That is a good step. I see it in a positive way. Mr. Gonsalves wants something more. They can further approach the NHRC so that this amount can be enhanced. So we have to take a positive view of the whole situation, that we have to, if something wrong has happened, we have to take this issue and bring some good result for the future. We should think of the police reform, because such kind of incident when happen, they shock the whole nation. And these kind of incidents are happening regularly in India in past so many years. And the Supreme Court has taken note of these kind of actions and has recommended that there should be police reforms. The basic cause behind this kind of actions which we see is that investigation wing and the law and order wing are presently both are with the same police authorities. We have to bifurcate these. This is the major reform which has recommended by the Supreme Court. We have to diversify these two aspects of policing. There should be a separate investigative wing and there should be a separate law and order wing. Only then we can see that this kind of incidents are not repeated.
Indeed, indeed. Mr. Singh, a very valid point being made here about police reforms. It's something that has been spoken about for decades now, and nothing really has changed on the ground. Until police reforms actually do take place, we will continue to see such kind of incidents, won't we?
Obviously, Mr. Frank, what you have said, that police reforms, although the Supreme Court, the matter went to the Supreme Court in 2006, almost 11 years plus have passed, and yet nobody seems to be serious in the implementation or putting in the police reforms at place. No other than the sitting Chief Justice of the country says, what can I do when the Chief Ministers of the nation are not cooperating? I would rather that if this be the frustration of the sitting Chief Justice, what more can we get, what more can we do? Is the compulsions of the politicians and the political outfits such that they would not like to have police reforms upon their dead bodies? If that be the case, such brutality, such rapes, such molestations, such custodial unfortunate incidents will continue to happen. But police reforms are no longer an option. They are a compulsion for the civilized society that we live in India today.
Indeed, it's 2017 and no longer the 1940s.
Absolutely, absolutely. We cannot have a brutal police force. We cannot have a police force that is full of scoundrels and scalawags. Gentleman force, proper police-friendly police force. That is the requirement of the day.
Indeed, indeed. Let's go back to the NHRC, Satya Prakash. The NHRC, let's not forget, only has the rights of a civil court. That it's bound by the Act, and the Act provides that the NHRC has all the powers of a civil court. Considering that, it is bound by this Act, could the NHRC have done more?
You must have seen the NHRC chairperson, Justice Dattu. In the last couple of months, he has made several times this statement that NHRC is a toothless tiger. So it doesn't have much power, one. But that is only part of the problem. NHRC could not have done much. Maybe the amount of compensation, as Mr. Gonsalves has pointed out, could have been more. But NHRC as an institution, or rather human rights institution, it doesn't have much power. I don't want to get into the time and how and why it was created in the early 90s. But once it has been created, it is whatever power it has been given under the NHRC Act, it is trying its level best to use those powers and try to create a culture of human rights. But let's admit that as a society we don't have that culture, because this kind of incidents, they're happening time and again. Maybe this time it was in Chhattisgarh, sometimes it happens in other parts of the country, and we as a society, the way we react is not that kind of reaction which is required or which is expected of a civilized society. It doesn't shock us. We take it as if something routine has happened, one. Second, Mr. Gonsalves has criticized the NHRC. I would rather not criticize the NHRC. I would criticize the Supreme Court of India. I would criticize the High Court of Chhattisgarh. The courts have been quite active or judicially active, and sometimes they have been accused of judicial overreach. They would take suo motu cognizance in so many trivial matters. Why not take suo motu cognizance of this kind of incident? And this much shock the conscience of judges. But I don't see this kind of, and it has happened in the past also. In Delhi, there were more than 3,000 Sikhs were butchered. No suo motu action. So courts also, be it Supreme Court or High Courts, they choose when to act, when not to act. These are the instances where if they act suo motu, it would enhance their credibility also, one. On the second hand, it would also act as a kind of deterrent against the police officers who have committed this kind of crime. Third, whatever compensation has been ordered by the NHRC, after inquiry or after proper investigation, if it is found that these are the police officers who raped these tribal women, it must be recovered from their salary, or let them sell off their property, ancestral property, or whatever they have, it must be recovered from them. Why should a state pay for the omissions, or rather commissions?
Fair enough. That's very valid point that you're making.
Who are acting like criminals in this case. If the allegations are true, and if it is found after investigation that they actually raped these tribal women.
Why the state and why not the people who have actually committed the crime?
Why not the actual
perpetrators? That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yes, Dr. Singh, you want to make a point?
Yes, Mr. Pereira. It's very seldom that the Human Rights Commission intervenes in this manner. And I would not fault the NHRC for this, because it has in a positive manner. And as Sir has just mentioned, if the very fact that a compensation has been awarded by the NHRC, it means that the police have been caught on the wrong foot. And if that be the case, they should be recovered from the dues from the Provident Fund and from the dues with the government, or whatever be the means. It should not be paid by the state exchequer. Now, the Human Rights Commission also holds that if a person is found guilty of a misdemeanor or violating human rights, there are three things that will happen. For 5 years, he will not be assigned a sensitive assignment. He will be debarred from all government grants, all government medals and prizes. He will be debarred from all foreign assignments and foreign trainings. I do hope that this finds a mention in their annual confidential rules, so that the dictate of the NHRC is implemented in letter and spirit.
Indeed, indeed. Mr. Gonsalves, do you want to respond to what the other panelists have said about how it is not right at this point in time really to hang the NHRC or to criticize the NHRC for the time being, because it has taken so much cognizance of the issue and taken some kind of action? At least it's a good start. And, and another question of mine is, of course, should the NHRC be given more teeth?
See, this notion that the NHRC is a toothless tiger, which is what the NHRC chairperson repeated recently, is a very convenient excuse for the NHRC not to act. It is not a toothless tiger. It is a powerful act. It can be stronger, true, but it is a powerful act as it stands today. First, it has a separate investigation wing of police officers who can carry on an independent investigation. So why do you not send those investigating officers, record the statements of the police officers or the paramilitary forces? Why do you not do that? Second, why do you not order that criminal investigations start and the prosecution of those officers be done? Shall I tell you why? Because the NHRC is in a rut. It's a rut of their own making. What do they do, like in Manipur? Hundreds of encounter killings. What do? Pay 2 lakhs, pay 3 lakhs, cover it up. Same formula they are now doing in Chhattisgarh. Rape has happened, matter has gone to the High Court, we have taken the matter to the High Court. In the High Court today, the matter was there for hearing, but the judge was not there, adjourned by 1 week. After 1 year, what do? Pay 3 lakhs, cover up the matter. And everybody will say, well done NHRC, well done, you have a weak act, you're a toothless tiger, at least you are trying something. Why no investigation which you can do when you have a separate investigation team? Why do you stick to 3 lakhs which was ordered by NHRC in cases 20 years ago? Why do you stick to that? So it shows the attitude of the NHRC, pretense of doing something, their name will come in the paper, they have issued notice, they have recommended 3 lakhs, and everybody will clap and think that their toothless tiger at least is getting up. I am saying IG Kalluri is the man who has been involved in so many cases. Do you have the courage, NHRC? You are headed by a very senior person. Why don't you have the courage to go investigate and order the prosecution of IG Kalluri? How many times rape cases? How many times massacre cases? How many times fake encounter cases? Does the NHRC have the courage? Point is not whether you are toothless. Point is not whether you don't have power. You have power. Point is whether you have courage to have rule of law in Chhattisgarh. Whether you have courage to implement the law in Chhattisgarh. Whether you have courage to prosecute all those police people who for years, because NHRC was sleeping for years, all these police officers were very happy to carry on with fake encounters and harassing women all the time. Show courage, NHRC, grow up, show courage.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Vivek Goyal, you know, as Mr. Singh was pointing out earlier, if not anything else, at least the NHRC indictment proves for a fact that there were police atrocities committed in Chhattisgarh. Now, what this does is it ensures that the victims can take this matter up with probably the Supreme Court and get justice.
The Supreme Court can take action on its own also, and they can give a higher compensation in this case, or in similar other cases also, because we don't want to see it just as a once incident of Chhattisgarh. This is a re-happening problem in all the different states at different point of time. Even as my friend mentioned regarding the Delhi in 1984, how so many deaths happened and no action was taken, and it is the High Court and Supreme Court took up these cases, and things went to some conclusion after that.
Mr. Singh, is it an easy way out, really, you know, to just give out compensation of 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs as is being suggested by Mr. Gonsalves? Is that an easy way out?
It's not an easy way out. I would give the due that is due to the NHRC, at least that they have gone to the scene of crime. They have inquired into it. And I would say that knowing their SOPs as I do, I have had some working relationship with the NHRC in a very remote manner, but I would note that this would not have happened without their investigators and inquiry officers not going there, recording the statements of all the police officers. But yes, I do wonder, and I do a bit of loud thinking, if that be the case, I would rather that they had recommended the investigation of all the cases to the CBI and not by the local Chhattisgarh police #1. And then the compensation could be enhanced. And if their rule book says that it is not in the financial powers, they could have well gone ahead and ensured that the financial powers are increased so that the amount of Rahat Rashi or the compensatory amount that they are giving is enhanced to at least some respectability. This is pittance.
Indeed, it is pittance, but as far as the NHRC is concerned, Satya Prakash, you know, it only looks at the human rights aspect of it. It doesn't look at the, you know, state security, or doesn't look at the picture holistically. Is that one of the drawbacks?
Well, it goes by its own charter. Whatever rights it has been given or powers it has been given under the NHRC Act 1993. So it is bound by that. It cannot exceed that. But in this case, or if there are rape cases involving policemen or police, in all such cases, first, how do you ensure that investigation is proper? It should be given to, not to the state police, as Mr. Singh has pointed out, it should be given to the CBI or any other independent investigating agency, so that the cases are not botched up. Second, it should be given to, the trial should be handed over to a special court. It should be concluded in a time-bound manner, because all such cases, because look at what is at stake. At stake is the very credibility of our system, in which we have entrusted the right, the responsibility to protect our people to the police or the armed forces. If they are committing this kind of atrocities or crimes, then how will we trust them? It's a question of having faith in the rule of law system. So it's very important that the case is handed over to an independent agency, one. Second, the trial is given to a special court, and then there should be a time-bound trial. And finally, if you don't give them proper compensation and proper punishment, compensation to the victims and punishment to the perpetrators, people would lose faith in the rule of law. And then that is when people take up arms. It feeds, you know, the other kind of extremism. So it is important for the state to check these kind of atrocities on tribal people, or maybe whosoever the poor people are, because what happens is then there are people who would instigate the victims and their family members and the community that you should take up arms against the state. So it is important for a state to check this kind of violence and punish the perpetrators, in this case the policemen, because otherwise it's going to increase what we know as vigilantism.
Indeed, indeed. Let's look at the way forward now, Mr. Gonsalves. Let's forget about this Chhattisgarh incident and put that aside and look at, you know, the rights, the human rights being violated across the country, and not just in Chhattisgarh alone. You know, there are third-degree tortures being conducted, you know, fake encounters by the police, so on and so forth. How do we change all of that? What's the way forward? Is this particular scenario going to continue for the next 10 years, or do you see a silver lining somewhere down the line?
See, this has happened now for the last 2 or 3 decades, and fake encounters have happened again and again and again, and rapes in tribal areas have happened again and again and again. And the failure of our high courts, I think one of the speakers mentioned, failures of the High Court to take suo motu action is one reason, and the High Courts have become, for some strange reason, in the conflict zone areas, very quiet on issues that are widely reported in the newspapers and cause tremendous anguish among the people. Chhattisgarh High Court was dormant for many years, and the massacre cases of Chhattisgarh that were filed in the High Court have been pending for the last 10 years, and judges are not willing to take up this issue with any seriousness. Therefore, the judiciary also, particularly in the conflict states, have lacked the backbone and spine, and they have lacked the courage to take panga with the government, to take panga with the security forces when they engage in violence of this kind. And that is the reason why today there is the license to kill, a license to rape. The security forces feel nobody is going to touch us. If the High Court is silent, nobody is going to touch us. So the first thing is the High Courts must wake up. They must wake up from their deep, deep slumber. Second is, NHRC should get out of this excuse chakkar and say that we are waiting for something to be done in Supreme Court, High Court. NHRC has an independent mandate, an independent statute, and there is no limitation on the financial power. It can recommend 3 lakhs, it can recommend 3 crores. There is no limitation on that at all. And the most important thing for Chhattisgarh to go forward is that IG Kalluri, who filed a case of murder against Nandini Sundar, who has been harassing that legal aid lawyer Shalini Gera and all the legal aid lawyers, got them thrown out of their premises. This man is not fit to be a policeman in a democracy. Please look at him. He's the kingpin. He's the pivot of all that is happening in Chhattisgarh. Somebody must have the courage to take him to task. And in this case, he should be charge sheeted and put behind bars. Only when that happens, when a policeman is put behind bars, will the situation in the state change. Otherwise, they are not bothered. They have a budget for killing. So from that budget, they will say, okay, 3 lakhs pay here, 3 lakhs pay. They actually have. The police have a secret budget. So they say, okay, in a year we will kill 5 people, 10 people, 15 people.
Okay, Mr. Gonsalves,
3 lakhs per person.
I'm going to let the policeman on the panel, I'm going to let the former policeman on the panel to respond to that.
Notwithstanding the long decades of experience that you have, but I too, in my own small way, have spent few years in the police too, and the budget that you are referring to is known as the Secret Service Account. It is meant only to collect actionable intelligence and is required to pay to informers and to those who perhaps give you actionable intelligence, and that is it. The only difference in any allotment of budget is it is not formally audited, but it is inspected by a supervisory officer, that by the DIG, by the IG and by the DGP. It is inspected, and nobody can say that I am giving money for hired assassins and I become a Dr. Hyde or a Mr. Jekyll. No, it doesn't happen that way. Secret Service is audited internally also. So to say that it is used for hired assassins, no, it will be very wrong. I have handled lakhs of Secret Service account. Every penny has been accounted for justifiable service of the state and service of the people. And to say that it is misused, I don't say. Like any budget, it is liable to be misused because the purse strings are rather loose here. They are not as tight as it would be perhaps in other budget. But to say that it's totally misused for illegitimate purposes would not be very true.
All right. And another point that Mr. Gonsalves was making also was the fact that, the highest police authority in a state, say for instance, is corrupt or is doing something wrong. What happens in such a scenario then? How is that person held accountable?
In any given system, whether it's the police, whether it's the magistracy, whether it's medical and health services, there would be 5% people who are ever ready to acquiesce and say yes, and they are yes men of this political dispensation. But I can assure you 95% of the people have that in them, the backbone in them, to say no when it is required to be said no. But you have 5% of the people who are ever pliable and ever ready to submit to his master's voice. I don't dispute that. And perhaps maybe 1 or 2% would be very convenient for the political bosses. But the 95%, let me tell you, are men and women of steel.
My question is only this. The short...
Go ahead.
My short question. There have been so many massacres, so many encounters in this place. Has a single person had a FIR filed against him and he has been put in jail and prosecuted? So many, over 2 decades of these killings.
One short answer to your question, sir.
Rape,
murder, I don't want to make this a match between Mr. Gonsalves and Mr. Singh.
Has there been a single FIR against a person?
Yeah, fair enough. Very quick response.
With due respect, sir, what is perceived to be a fake encounter? What is perceived to be a murder? Rest assured, sir, we are from the same background as you are. We are all sensitive to human misery as you are, if not more, sir. And we would not condone any fake encounter or merciless killing that way. And there have been cases where policemen have been sentenced to long terms of imprisonment after the encounter was found to be fake. It's a different matter. What I choose to say is a fake, and the other person says
not in Chhattisgarh.
Okay. Let it be investigated.
Fair enough. Okay, I want to get my other panelists also in because I'm out of time. Let's take the debate forward. Vivek, Goyal, is it time to take a relook at the laws that we have, the criminal laws that we have, and the criminal penal code?
Definitely. My view is that we should go for the police reforms. Only then we can correct this kind of situations and we can found a better future for that. Okay.
And Satya, Prakash, I've got just a couple of minutes left on the program, so I'd like you to close the show for us on a very positive note and looking forward.
You talked about silver lining. The silver lining is, in this case, the civil society highlighted these atrocities and sexual assault on tribal women. One, media reported it. NHRC took so motu cognizance and it has ordered compensation for the victims. Maybe inadequate, but it has ordered. So the kind of collaboration you see between the civil society, media, NHRC, and then we are highlighting it. This is the way forward, because after all, it's responsibility of all the stakeholders. Civil society is a stakeholder, media is a stakeholder, NHRC is a stakeholder. What we expect is even the high courts should be acting in such cases. They should be taking so motu cognizance and they should be showing some amount of confidence in their own power, what has been vested in them by the constitution.
But will it be termed as judicial overreach?
No, not overreach. If they order investigation on their own, it would ensure that an investigation by an independent agency, it would enhance the credibility of the state system, and thereby it would minimize the chances of these very people joining the hands of Maoists or what we call Naxalites. So this is very important for all the stakeholders to join hands. In this case, they have not done it deliberately, but it started with the change. Some NGOs, they highlighted this issue, media reported, NHRC took cognizance, and then whole action has been taken.
Come together,
this is the way forward.
Come together and take things forward. That's the way forward, is the consensus that we are getting here on The Big Picture. That's all the time we have on this edition of The Big Picture. Colin, Gonsalves, Vikarm, Singh, Satya, Prakash and Vivek Goyal, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us and putting things into perspective for us. Goodbye.